All right, it's Liam. I want to thank everyone at the Oasis podcast. As you were.
Hello and welcome back to the Oasis podcast, the ultimate audio guide to Oasis. And I don't know what's going on today. It's Wednesday, the 28th of August, and my good friend, collaborator, and fellow suddenly in high demand media person, Richard Bowes is with us. Richard, how you doing?
Do you know, I've been like the last couple of days, all I've just had in my head is ironically not an Oasis song, but it's just What a Life. I just had that in my head the last couple of days. I'm all right, mate. I'm much like yourself. I'm a little bit still a bit overwhelmed, really. I don't even I'm very aware of how I sound when I say this, but I haven't really properly processed things. Like all the things like people have been saying, you know, about tickets and the ticket stress and how to do Ticketmaster and all that kind of stuff. I've not had a chance to kind of look at it. Because of the quite insane couple of days that we've had. But, you know, you wouldn't change it. They're back.
Of course not.
They're back.
Well, look, the way I see it, there's like three levels to it. There's like number one, like Oasis are back. Like that is just mind-blowing to me. Like Oasis are a band again. You know, Noel and Liam are how long we've been talking about this, you know? Like it's just unbelievable that is like, okay, number one, that's real. Like that's what I've been saying on these, you know, on these podcasts. It's like it's real. It's actually happening. You know, it is real. I wouldn't believe it, you know, but it's happened. So there's that. Okay, that by itself would be a massive thing. If it was just like it's been confirmed, but there was no gigs, no nothing, then fine. That in itself is fucking mind blowing, and we could do a 17 podcast just about that. Number two, yes, practicalities of, oh shit, we need to get tickets. What's the date? Where is it? I don't know if you heard like the live stream I did at 8 a.m, like, but then when the guys like the Australians were like, oh, I'm trying to book my flights. And I'm like, oh, I hadn't even considered that as a thing that I'd have to think about travel or, you know, or anything like that. For me, it was like, are they going to get back together? And stupidly, I hadn't even thought about that. So I quickly had to think about it. But then, like, that would be another thing to think about and gigs and blah, blah, blah. But now, then it's like suddenly me and you are just like constantly getting press stuff and in full demand. So it was like my life just changed to be like just constantly doing this press stuff. And I mean, thankfully I was off work, like my main job, and I had a bit of space like family wise. So I could do all this stuff. But so, you know what I mean? It's like I could probably cope with one of those elements, but all three at the same time, it's like, I don't even know what's going on.
I know I was getting to the stage yesterday. I was having to say to people, sorry, but I'm really pushed. I've got like 3 other interviews going on today. Like, can we make it like I was specifying the times and stuff like that? It was all getting a little bit out of hand. To be honest, It was all getting quite sort of like. So for me, so you had Sky News on, where are we, Monday? You had it on Wednesday. You had it on Monday, and then I got well, I tell you what, tell the story that I told you on text. So I woke up on Monday morning after watching Liam at Reading, obviously, and it was a bit of a late night, as you can probably tell from my voice. And woke up to a WhatsApp saying, "Hi, would you come on BBC News later on to talk about the Oasis reunion? We've got these 3 slots that you can do." And the one of which was in like 10 minutes. I was still in Reading. I was like, well, I'm not doing that. I said, I can do the 4:30 one. It slept back to Bristol. And then fortunately that kind of went on and on because I'd kind of not replied to it straight away, and that got pushed back till 6:30. And then I checked my text messages, you know, my old school retro text messages, because this first message was a WhatsApp, and it was someone from BBC 5 Live saying, "Hi, can you come on to Nicky Campbell's show today on Radio 5 Live to talk about the Oasis reunion?" Now that was probably sent at about 8 o'clock, and I got up about 10:30, so I completely missed it. But then all the nerves of like, oh shit, I'm going to be on BBC News. That's, you know, I've never been on the goggle box. That's quite scary. So all the kind of thing that went off with that. Then Tuesday morning, obviously, you know, was the day, and all the excitement was around what was going to go on at 8 o'clock. Again, kind of because of post Reading, I was a bit like, I'm gonna you know, I slept in till well, I slept in, and I was I was up before 8 o'clock, obviously, and yeah, so I was there ready, poised and waiting for the news and watching it, and was there for the announcement, and then Louise, God love her from Stop Going High Out, had been contacted by Sky News, and she said, well, "You can speak to this guy." So she gave them my details, and then it was like then it got arranged the Sky News interview. Then it was BBC Radio Sheffield. Then it went stupid, like two different TV stations from Canada. I think it was CBC and CTV, emailing me going, "Hi, we'd love to have you on." I was just like, okay, all right. And obviously, you know, not going to say no to any of this stuff, despite the fact, you know, we have a, there's a thing amongst my friends that we call the Tuesday after Reading Festival Suicide Tuesday. Because you generally feel quite rough, obviously. So there was kind of that going on. Obviously, the adrenaline was kind of carrying me through, but it was just like it was all just I don't know. And I don't know about you, but I found myself settling into like a comfort zone of like answers and words and turns of phrases and stuff to use. So I think like, the BBC interview I thought was terrible, and with that one as well, I was told it was live, but I think they recorded it and then they transmitted an hour before, so it was quite heavily edited. Like the chat itself was about 5 minutes, but I think like a minute of it made the telly. But Sky News was live. I think all the others were live, and I kind of, as I say, kind of found my rhythm of things to say. If I hear myself say the word combustible ever again when discussing the Gallagher brothers relationship, but just generally, I'll shoot myself in the face. But yeah, I mean, and you imagine what people. I mean, I think that I noticed John Robb did a lot of stuff, and there are a lot of journalists that did quite a lot of stuff. But you know, there was quite. I don't see much from the prominent Oasis people talking about it. I think Alan McGee was on Talksport.
Yeah.
I think that was it. I don't remember seeing anyone like closely affiliated, like part of the story, actually doing any press. So obviously we're 19th and 20th, or probably 19th and 20th hundred on the list of people to actually contact, and eventually they found us and we were like, yes, please. But yeah, it was quite. I thought it was quite interesting that there was a lot of people, actual like Oasis people yesterday.
Yeah, I got bumped for Ian Robertson on 5 Live. So Ian Robertson, the old Oasis tour manager. It's funny because they sort of said to me, "Oh, can you come on 5 Live at this time?" And I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And then that one did. I've completely lost kind of what I've done and what I haven't, and what some of them is just mad. But yeah, so I got bumped by 5 Live for something. Oh, Sven died. So I was ready to go on 5 Live, and then Sven-Göran Eriksson died. And then so it's like, "Oh, sorry, we're not going to use you." Okay, that's fine. And they were like, "Can you come on later?" Yeah, that's okay. And then it was like, "Oh, actually, no, we've got Ian Robertson instead. And sorry, he's bigger than you." I'm like, "Well, fair enough." He is like, well, he's physically bigger than me, he's massive, but he's also he was the tour manager. So and he's a good talker as well, to be fair, Ian. But yeah, so that was mad. But yeah, and I can't remember if I've talked about this in the podcast. So if I have, I'll cut this out. But Sky News was mad. So the first day I did the Sky News, and that is nerve-wracking because you're going on TV live. That's weird. And for the Zoom setup, like we're on a Zoom now, like it's got there's you in the little on a Zoom at the above, and then they've got the actual Sky News feed. And then it's like, okay, you talk to the producer, that's fine. We'll put you through to the gallery, that's fine. And then they're like, "We'll put you through to the director, that's fine. Okay, all right, hold, James, we're going to come to you after this." Okay. And it's like, I was feeling all right, and then it's just the stress level just increases and increases and increases, doesn't it? As you're as extra people, and I'm like, fucking hell. And so I did that first one on Sky News, which was good. And then the next day, then they wanted me to come back on again. And I'm sat there waiting to go on, doing all that same thing again. And then what had happened? Keir Starmer was doing his speech, and it ran over. And so they've got me. I'm sat there at 10:30, and they said, "Oh, we'll come to you at 10:35." And then it's like, "Oh no, Keir Starmer's speech has run over," and then they have to go back to Beth Rigby does her analysis of Keir Starmer's speech and all that sort of stuff. And they're like, "Yeah, hold on, James, we'll come to you after this." And then it was like, "Sorry, actually, no. So can we get you on later?" And I'm like, "Still this year." I'm like, "Well, I've got 5 Live at this time, and I've got this at this time."
What a pair of wankers.
I know, but it's just truth, isn't it? It's just the facts, And yeah, and then it was like, okay, so I'll go back on later. And and then so I went, and then so I'm waiting then to go on again at like, I don't know, 2:30, no, 1:30. That was it, because we were supposed to be leaving. We were supposed to be driving, and I was like, well, we were supposed to leave at 1, and he said, oh, can you come on at 1:30? I said, oh, okay, it's a bit of a pain. We have to rearrange a few things, but that's okay. It is Sky News, and then and then so I'm sat there waiting, and then like just as they're like, okay, James, that's fine. We're going to come to you straight after this advert break, and they come back and they go, oh, it's just been announced that Israel have had some hostage released, and it's like, okay, so Israel had some hostage released, and they're like, all right, sorry, we're going to have to follow this for a bit. And then we'll come to you after we've talked about this hostage release. And I thought, bloody hell, this is going to be a one show level like handbrake turn. You know, if you're talking about hostage releases.
I had something something vaguely kind of similar, not hostage releases, but related to the Starmer speech. I was on LBC, and LBC like I was on LBC about 6 o'clock last night, 10 to 6, something like that. And I was kind of brought in, and then like they said, all right, yeah, okay, we're just gonna patch you through now. I was like, okay, cool. And they took another caller, and that was talking about like, you know, the economic situation, and Keir Starmer making promises that, you know, things will be better in the future, but not the immediate term. And I was like, it was quite a deep conversation. And the presenter Ben Kentish was like, you know, he was quite forcefully opinion. It was like, well, you know, it's all very well them telling us this, but we all know when things get better, blah blah. And I'm like, and I'm going to talk about Oasis like within the next 20 seconds. Like it doesn't seem like it's gonna be a smooth segue, but hey ho.
Yeah, it is. It's funny, but then so on mine they then go so they're ready to go to you. Okay, nope, sorry about that delay. We'll come to you after this ad break. Okay, fine. And then they come back from the ads, and it's like, oh, the Israeli government's doing a press conference, and so we're going to take that live. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm sat there, and then they come back to me, James, really sorry to do this to you again, but we can't do it. You know, can you do it later? I said, no, I genuinely can't do it later. I've got to go. And so you know what I did? Well, you know, because I told you. But I I did. So this is a dick move. But I said to them, because we don't get paid for any of this, right? I've not been offered any money at all for this. I know you've got your story, but then I was like, I said to the producer, like, well, yeah, I understand, right, that we do get bumped if it's the news. That is how it works. But it is a pain, and I have had to reschedule my travel. Do you think I could get some sort of compensation payment? So they give me 75 quid. So you can't argue with that, can you?
No, certainly not. I mean, that's, without going into details, that's more than I've got. But yeah, that's all I got from my two things combined. I mean, I similarly wasn't expecting anything. Again, this is probably kind of like how the day kind of went. Like BBC emailed me after my bit and goes, "Oh, we just," or texted me in fact. They're like, "Oh, we'd like to offer you a small fee for that." I was like, "Okay, cool." And I have to fill out, like, they said, "Have you got like a BBC vendor number?" And I was like, "No." And they said, "Okay, can you fill out this form?" I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know when I'll get it for the BBC. But that was quite cool. But then like Sky didn't do anything, and then LBC. We really shouldn't talk about this. It's really vulgar and unprofessional, isn't it?
But no, this is shit that people need to know, because we're not just like seasoned, you know, like John Robb would be like, "Oh yeah, I went on BBC." We're like, "Fucking hell!" Like
Yeah,
I was on the telly, and like I had to sit on hold and stuff. That's the real thing that real people deal with, Richard, because we're the real people.
Well, let's not pull on that thread. Yeah, and then like LBC were like, they sent me the email saying, "Oh, this is the fee. This is the fee we'd offer you for appearing on the show." I was like, "Okay, cool." I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it happily." And then after did my bit, came afterwards and like checked it was all right, and they were fine. And then kind of I went out and had to give my wife a lift to an appointment. And later on, I was like, "Fuck." LBC have gone quiet about the money. They didn't tell me what they were going to be, so I was like emailing them and going, "Oh, I think it went quite well. Just how will I receive payment?" They were like, "Yeah, it's fine." Yeah, and they emailed me back this morning and say, "Oh, can you send us the invoice and stuff like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, cool." But again, it's like funny how like the days gone on. I'm now like getting annoyed. I'm like, "Hang on, you said you can pay me, you bastards."
Whereas if at the start of the day they'd said like, "Oh yeah, do you want to come on LBC? You have to pay 100 quid." I'd be like, "Yeah, okay, no problem. You know, to go on LBC."
Well, I don't know if I've done that. I'm naturally tired, so I've got Oasis tickets to pay for on the weekend. But yeah, I know what you mean.
This is true. But anyway, yeah. So that is just mad, though, mate, isn't it? Like, how did the BBC? So the BBC was the first one, because you've been on BBC Radio Sheffield before, haven't you? So did they have your details on file from that?
Must have. Yeah, I've been on. Yeah, I've been. I was on Radio Sheffield again yesterday, but I presume it's one big database that the BBC have got, and I did BBC Sheffield has it 3 times, I think, once for the obviously because I did the Arctic Monkeys book. They what was I talking about the first time? I think I was just talking about the Arctic Monkeys first time. Second time was when they announced Glastonbury. Actually, no, the first time was when they announced Glastonbury. Second time was when they were just about to do some Sheffield homecoming shows. And then they saw that I was also a Pulp fan, so they called me to ask about Pulp when Pulp played Sheffield last year as well. So I assume it's on a shared database, or they might have just gone Oasis book, put Oasis books authors into Google.
Oasis book author, yeah.
Yeah, and found my website, and obviously my email's on there. Although that said, the BBC texted me, so yeah, it must have been the shared database thing that they've got. Yeah,
it's mad, isn't it? Like the funny one I had. So I had started off on like Radio London, and that was ridiculous because like the host didn't have a clue. She didn't even like. She was like, "Wait, which brother's the singer and which brother's the?" She just didn't know. And then she's like, "And what album is? Well, and so what album is it the 30th anniversary of?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's this one. It's got those songs." "Oh, right, okay." I'm like, you literally know zero about this band, but that was so weird. And then literally because I was with them at like 8:40, and I was supposed to be and they said, oh, it'd be like 5 minutes. And then I think I was supposed to be on Radio Oxford at like 8:55. And then and it was getting to like, I was still talking to this woman on the radio, and then it's flashing up my phone like Radio Oxford was trying to call me like over and over again. So obviously they were like, "Oh, we're going to cross over to James." It's like they haven't got him, and so I've like literally hung up. As soon as they said, "All right, thank you very much, James," I've hung up and then literally called in Radio Oxford, and they're like, "Okay, that's fine, great, we're ready to go now." Bang, straight on. I'm like, "What?" And so you haven't got time to get nervous because you're just like straight in like a lunatic. And then, and then the bloody Jeremy Vine thing. The Jeremy Vine was massive. I know I mentioned it briefly on yesterday's podcast because this is now a daily podcast, but randomly. The Jeremy Vine thing, like they did say to me, the producer phoned me and was like, the idea is we want it to be like a class thing. We're going to get someone to be. So I think they'd heard me and heard that I was a posh Southerner. And then so they were like, right, let's get you on to be the posh Southerner, and then we'll get on a northern firebrand, and then it'll be like our Oasis, a working class band. That are you allowed to listen to Oasis if you're not working class? And then so this Northern Journo, but it's so funny because it was like really because then they ended up getting the guy from Blossoms on as well, and I'm sat there waiting for a call, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm still waiting for this call, and it's supposed to be now. And they're talking to the guy from Blossoms. So I'm like, all right, well, look, they must have binned me off for Blossoms, which is fair enough. And then they literally phoned me and were like, oh, yep, sorry, yep, right now, okay, go. And then literally the next thing I hear, because I hadn't heard what the Northern guy had said, and then they said, Jeremy goes, Jeremy, first name terms now, but Jeremy Vine's like, so what do you think about that, James? Working class band only or something? And I was like, so I didn't know what he said because I was like, listen to the producer go, okay, put you through now. So I'm like, so I just sort of chatted on briefly. And then that Northern guy's like, yeah, well, you Southerners, you've all got like, why have you only got like your place names? You've got so many words in it. Can't it just be one word like Bury? Where are you from anyway? Like Bolton on the Water or blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, mate.
It's 30 years since Britpop, and if Tom, who's actually from Stockport and I'm from Bury, so none of us are really from Manchester, but it's 30 years since, and if Tom thinks it's kids that are going to be buying the tickets, and them tickets are going to go well into 4 figures on the secondary market, he's kidding himself. It's going to be old saddos like me, well into our 50s and early 60s, that are shelling out to relive those glory days of Britpop and Manchester.
What do you make of that, James Corcoran?
I don't think so. I mean, I was at Reading this weekend, and it was all 16, 17-year-olds. There was a few of us, us from the 90s in there as well. But this band, crosses generations. Absolutely. There will be a very wide range of people there.
Sorry to go on the class thing, but we did start there. James, are they a working class band or not?
Well, they grew up working class, definitely. I mean, they're from the council estate in Burnage. They're very, very happy to sort of talk about that quite a lot. And, I mean, Burnage isn't, that rough. Having been through it, obviously I'm not Manchester myself, but,
Where are you from, James?
I'm from Oxfordshire. So, just south of Manchester.
Why are you laughing, Steve?
Because he won't admit where he's actually from, because he's going to say something like Little Witten on the Wall, somewhere that's got like 4 names instead of Bury or Stockport or Gorton or Burnage. Or why do you all have so many bloody names for your places down there? Can you not just get by with one like we?
And so I couldn't get a word in anyway. I said anyway. I did a couple of good sentences. Like he said, he goes, yeah. Well, the thing is, Oasis, because they're working class lads, they'd be down the pub having a pint with the people. And I said, yeah, they might be, but it would be a pub in Highgate. Like that. So I thought that was a good line. But yeah, and then that was like really quick, I suppose, because they'd used the Blossoms guy in the same slot. And then I literally had 2 minutes and it was like, all right, James, thank you very much. Boom, and I'm done. And it's like weird.
Is it the case that the best bands come from the toughest places, James?
Yeah, I think so, typically. I mean, and I think
Great bands from Oxfordshire, who can we think of?
Well, Radiohead, Supergrass, Ride, not too bad.
Well, there we are.
Punches above its weight.
Genesis.
But I think that the big difference, when you look at a working class band, often they are very happy to flaunt the wealth. When they get a bit of money, they are happy to tell you about it and wear the clothes and everything. When you get someone like Coldplay, like working, very middle class guys, they downplay it. It's rough, it's sort of a charity shop clothes and ripped jeans and things like that. But so no, Oasis, yeah, they're always happy about that working class thing. And yeah, they're down the pub, but it's probably quite a posh pub in Highgate these days.
I suppose the thing is, you can't, as a band.
It's been quite. I think today has been. I haven't had anything. Well, I've had an email from some Canadian website that I'm going to bloody Canada again. Canadian website. They're going to be doing a thing with more. I think it's just going to be a website, into like a print thing. I don't think it's going to be like they're sending me a Zoom, but I think it's just going to be like they're using me for an article or something. But other than that, today's been pretty quiet, and it's just been like, as I say, kind of digesting everything and kind of process everything, and and it's kind of like you for an upstart like me, you kind of want to brag about it, don't you? Essentially, you want to go, I was on the telly today, and blah blah. And certainly for me, like putting up my socials and Instagram and the likes and stuff. But the most important thing is that they're back. And I think, and I keep on like kind of coming back to that. I'm like, yeah, but remember what happened at 8 o'clock yesterday morning? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like all this good stuff is it's great, and it's on a personal level, it's quite nice. But to be honest, it still means nothing in comparison to the fact that Oasis are back. I'm still blown away by it. I mean, that moment on Sunday night. I spent the whole weekend at Reading Festival as we spoke about on the podcast. I had loads of people coming up to me, like so many of my people, because obviously I'm brought up in Reading, so I know a lot of people in Reading. They're all coming up to me going, "Oh, do you hear it's happening? Blah blah blah. 10 nights at Wembley, blah blah blah. 10 nights at Heaton Park." I'm like, I don't believe it. Like, I just don't believe it. Like, we've been on it. We've been down this road so many times before. I just don't believe it. And then I got to the Sunday, and I was like, and then I don't remember. I can't remember what it was. I think just the rumours kept on snowballing. I was like, okay, I'm starting to believe. Maybe I'm starting to believe. And then you and I ran into each other at the Chevron stage. And I think you told me about a conversation you'd had with Secret Drug Addict, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to believe now. And then obviously it happened at the end of the Liam set. Yeah, that message flashed up, and I was like, "It's got to be it." Like, there's nothing else. I don't think there's nothing else it could be. Like, a few friends have jokingly gone, "Oh, maybe they're just releasing Definitely Maybe." It's like, well, actually, they're doing that on Friday anyway. Even announcing a reissue of Morning Glory wouldn't have made sense, like with the timing and all that kind of stuff. And then it's like, what else could it be? I think Liam flagging it might be one thing, but then obviously shortly afterwards he saw that both Noel and the Oasis account flagged it as well. And it's like, that's it, isn't it? That is it. Yeah. That is it.
Had to be. To be. You just think, well, what? And you were still, excuse me, like, and obviously it's been documented. Like I've given the live reactions to things. I've been there at Reading and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, you were sort of thinking like, well, I mean, it could still be a wind up. Like we've been, because we've been here so many times before, but never to this level. You know what I mean? This was different. Like, And yeah, and when that comes up on the screen, and then you hear me sort of go, what? But then, you know, he's tweeted it, and he's tweeted it, and he's tweeted it, and you're like, well, then it's not. Like, if it was like a Liam, you know, and I thought it could be like just announcing the Liam live, definitely maybe album, or, you know, live, definitely maybe film, which I'm sure will come, because it's, you know, that Half the World Away that's released has got little bits of voiceover in it. So that feels like it's a, you know, that's not just a concert, is it? That's like being edited with voiceover and stuff. So yeah, I did still think it was that, but then the nail in the coffin was Noel has tweeted it, because Noel is not going to promote Liam's album, you know. So it had to be that. It had to be that. But where were you? Like, where were you? I mean, were you in the main bit, or were you in the backstagey press bit? Where were you on Reading?
I think having seen your video, I think I was probably parallel to you, but the other side. Basically, I was kind of like I was
You weren't in the main bit,
similar kind of
in the close bit.
No, I wasn't in the main. No, I wasn't in the main bit. Well, again, basically because I wasn't. There wasn't much going on work-wise, like for Clash or for reporting on Sunday. So I kind of just hung around. Mainly decided I was going to hang around with my friends and not do much. So I did a lot over the previous couple of days. Like I did a lot of reporting, a lot of interviews and stuff. And I knew I wasn't going to cover Liam, so I was like, so I spent my time kind of with my friends. But there's about 20 of them. And so it's like fucking herding kittens, isn't it? So you're just like, can we go, please? Can we go? Can we go? And they're like, no, just stay here, stay here. And I'm like, look, I'm fucking going in a minute. Do you know what I mean? We've got 20 minutes till Liam's on. I want to get a decent spot. I'm fucking off in a minute if I have to. And it's like, no, we'll just be 1 minute, 1 minute. And eventually everyone kind of came to that. Yeah, eventually got everyone together and had to meet other people over there. And so we were kind of, like I say, I was probably parallel to you. So it was a decent spot. We could see them on the stage. We had a good spot on the screens. And I think at Reading was obviously quite beset by sound problems over the course of the weekend, as it always is on the main stage. So it was like, well, let's at least get to a speaker. You know what I mean, let's kind of be very in the direct pathway of a speaker. So yeah, like I say, probably parallel to you, but the other side. But that's fine. There was enough space for me to throw my hands up in the air, you know, and throw my head back and be that guy you hate, you know, sing my little heart out and all that kind of stuff. I did have a lot of my friends were like trying to talk to me. I was like, no, I don't. No. I'm not here for a conversation. I'm not here because, you know, obviously nothing worse than people chatting at gigs anyway. But I was just like, yeah, it's nice to see you. I'll catch up with you after the show. I'm here for one reason, and that's to watch one of my idols do one of my favorite albums. So yeah, it's probably that side. And you know, talking about the gig itself, you know, which has kind of obviously been forgotten now almost. You know, Liam did Octopus's Garden during, you know, for whatever. That was that was a nice surprise, because not a surprise, but I don't know how much he's done that on this tour. I thought generally that version of whatever sounded incredible. Shame that, you know, I Will Believe and Lock All the Doors and Cloudburst and stuff weren't there, but as you discussed, you know, and I think as has been happening, it was a slightly truncated set, and it was a good solid Liam Gallagher show. Really, you know, I think it was. I still haven't watched the iPlayer highlights yet, so it'd be interesting to watch back in hindsight, knowing what we know, because I'm surprised he kept stum. Just goes to show how professional he can be when he puts his line to
it. I know, but it is mad, isn't it? Like, I was thinking, like, before, because I do sometimes plan episodes, and I was thinking, okay, well, we're going to do like your review. I'd love to hear like you, because I know you interviewed a few bands, didn't you? Like, it'd be great to hear how those went. I have to review the Liam gig, maybe hear from some other people. I was even thinking I could do my like, maybe as a Patreon bonus. I might still do this, but like like a ranking of every act I saw, you know, because there's interesting stuff like seeing Lana Del Rey and then being shit. I'll tell you one funny thing I will tell you. I don't know if I might have said this to you on text. I don't think I've said it on the podcast, but you know, I know you're not a big fan of Pendulum. I do really like a lot of Pendulum stuff, especially the first two albums. And it just reminds me of driving around when I've like had like young kids. You just like, you know, I just think it's great. Yeah, and anyway, and I was in the main bit for Pendulum. Pendulum pretty early, 5 o'clock or something, and I was in the front section, because just to clarify, at Reading, like probably the first, I don't know, 2000, there's like you have to go to the side and get into the front section, and then they close that off, and so you can't get in. So I tried to get it for Liam, and it was closed. It was like, oh, but there's loads of space, and like, no, it's closed. Like, I was like, don't you know who I am? I'm the bloody Oasis podcast. But same again, I was watching Beaver Doobie on the other stage, and I'm like, I just didn't get there in time. I thought I'd be cutting it fine. I just, when it came up and the 20, on the numbers, counting down to 94 was already on like 2010. And I'm like, oh shit, I've probably missed it. So anyway, so I wasn't in the main that front section. And I've lost my train of thought. Why was I talking about that? Oh, Pendulum. So Pendulum. So we did get there, on time, and obviously that wasn't that busy. So I got into that front section easy, and it was just dead. It was just people nodding their heads, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, a few 20-year-olds, probably people with their girlfriends, just sat there nodding their heads. If Pendulum's like, put your hands in the air, they put their hands in the air. If he's like, jump, they jump. But other than that, it was just people watching a band and standing where they're supposed to. And even when like people would come through, it would all be very much like, sorry, excuse me, would you mind? Excuse me, would you mind? And it's like, and we actually said to people like, it's fine, you just go. Like if you see a gap, it was like I said to someone, mate, you see a gap, you go. Like you don't be, excuse me, don't mind, please. People are too polite. So anyway, Propane Nightmares came on, which is like my favorite Pendulum song. And I'm like, fuck this. I haven't done any kind of moshing or mad stupidness all festival. I'm just going to fucking go for it from Propane Nightmares. And so I'm just like, you do that thing when you want to go, but you sort of do it jumping. So you just sort of jump through people, right? And anyone that's been to a gig, like in the last 30 years, should know that that's what you do, and that's absolutely fine. If I'm stood there watching and someone jumps past me, jumping to the music and going in, fair enough. Like I've got no problem with that, because that's what you do. If you want to get there, if you can find the gap, you go. If I don't want you to get past, I'm going to stop you, and then you have to find a different gap. And there's not going to be a discussion, right? And so Pendulum. So I'm like, okay, let's go. And I start jumping and bashing through, and all these kids are like, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing?" And like, well, knocking at me like, "Huh," like I've, sworn at their like ancestors or something. I'm like, guys, like, this is a gig, this is. And I actually said, like, have you not been to a gig before? And then it's like, oh, they probably haven't actually, to be fair. And I got in. And I was ready to like really have it to this really good song. And then it's like, no one is moving. And I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just going to go back again. And but the stupid mistake I made is I went back exactly the way I'd come in. And so I got all these people, like all these like 18-year-olds shoving me like, prick. I'm like, what? God, it's a gig. God, liven up. Jesus. Anyway, so I just went back to the side. And to be honest, that really just robbed me. I was just like, kids these days, man, like, just get with it.
I'm kind of very conscious about how we sound when we're talk about things like this. But like I was for the Prodigy on Friday night, it was like equally mobbed, and there was like it was similar. Like a lot of people just stand in. It was like it was Friday night. I was well oiled when I saw you 6 hours previously. Do you know what I mean? So you can imagine how I was later that night. And I just saw like kids like putting like sitting on each other's shoulders, and like girls putting on people's shoulders, stuff like that for the Prodigy. I was like, it's not really that type of gig. It's not really that type of thing. No. And obviously a lot of people just stood there filming it and stuff like that. And I'm all for clipping a bit of a song, as anyone who watches my Instagram to do. 30 seconds or whatever of one tune. Fine, that's fine, whatever. Don't fucking film the whole gig. But I was down. The only time I went down the front was for Fontaine's. And to be honest, I know that they're probably one of the hottest acts of the weekend, but it was really body to body. So I was kind of like, I don't think I actually want to do this for Liam, because I'm not really. I've never been, down the front going fucking loopy type of person. I'd rather like it becomes uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like I'd just rather just be able to watch the gig and enjoy it in my own space. Yeah,
no, I agree, and I say I do. It's annoying because when I'm in there, like I'm thinking like I'm not really enjoying the gig because I'm getting bashed about and stuff. But then if you're not in there, you feel like, oh, I'm not in there, I'm missing out because I'm here and it's quiet.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but maybe it's because when the announcement came up, like it just wiped my memory of the gig and like wiped my
Absolutely.
brain. But yeah, I can't, like normally when I see it, like when I reviewed Liam at Co-op, I could give you my specific thoughts on pretty much every song,
Mm.
like, the band, the setup, everything. Whereas it was just really like, yeah, I mean, I suppose because I'd seen it at the Co-op like 2 months ago or
Mm.
whatever. So it's not like, I'm not sort of thinking, oh, that's the different version of Married with Children, because it was the same one I saw 2 months ago, and Liam doesn't mix it up. They rehearse it, they do the set, that's it. And so yeah, so that was fine. But yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I haven't got a clue. It's like I saw Liam this week, which is normally like the most massive thing in the world when you get to see Liam or Noel, especially like Liam doing Definitely Maybe. And yet it's like almost forgotten.
Well, I think I think it might have been somewhere I read in the Guardian today that like Liam Gallagher managed to go upstage himself. Do you know what I mean? Like with that announcement, obviously, because yeah, as you said, the show was all very well. It was great. It was a perfectly decent Liam Gallagher show. But all the news happened at whatever time it was, 11 o'clock or whatever it was. That was the story of the night. Yeah, similar to you. I remember I enjoyed the gig and I enjoyed it and it was pretty good. But having seen it earlier in the year, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I knew what to expect, and the kind of, let's face it, the novelty had probably slightly worn off. Having seen things like Married with Children, etc., etc. But yeah, it also feels like a lifetime ago as well. In Oasis world. There's been so much kind of speculation and stories over the last couple of days, and in classic Oasis fashion, the announcement kind of asked more questions, or sorry, posed more questions than it's answered. Do you know what I mean? Because it's still like, who else is in the band? Who else is in there? I'm now kind of thinking, based on Noel's comment earlier in the year that he's done a Stadium Rock album, and Liam saying to someone on Twitter that he was going to record his next album in November. It's like, I never thought we'd get new music, but might we? Might we?
It's feasible, isn't it? I mean, they've not said, like a point I made on Twitter earlier actually is, God, and I was actually on the drive back today. I was listening to Liam Gallagher solo on Shuffle, and I was just really enjoying these Liam Gallagher solo songs. Like I really, really like a lot of it. It's so, it's there's some great songs in there. There's some songs in there that are as good, if not better than some Oasis songs, definitely. And yeah, and I was just thinking, oh my God, like I have no clue now whether this is the end of Liam Gallagher solo. For all intents and purposes, this could now be Oasis, like, for another fucking 10 years. Who knows? It could be. Like, some bands reunite and then stay together.
I mean, I think the biggest question over all this is, when are the High Flying Birds going to reform? But yeah, but it is, I know what you mean. Like, the things that Liam said, like, I'm done with being a solo artist, and I never liked that. I never cared for that word form or whatever it was he said. And it's kind of like, yeah, we are operating on the basis that it's kind of a, kind of wants a lack of glory, or I don't know what the expression is, but a one final kind of farewell. But it might not be. Like, I mean, I think I posted this earlier on. I think Noel has said since Oasis broke up, he was kind of like, what we should have done is we should have gone away, do our kind of separate projects, come back to Oasis, and then kind of gone back and forth between the two of them, i.e. the High Flying Birds is a side project, like, the Smile is for Radiohead or whatever. Or I suppose you could argue that, say, the Good, the Bad, and the Queen for Blur or whatever. Not so much Gorillaz, obviously, but maybe, and I think, well, it's possible. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that Noel's probably gone, okay, let's do that, and then that frees you up, Liam, because he's more impatient. You can go and do your John Squire thing, or you can do whatever you want in the kind of downtime while I have 2-3 years off, because he likes his time off, let alone the High Flying Birds thing, and they can come back to Oasis, every 5 years. And I think the thing with this is, obviously, they're doing it now because they're it won't look ridiculous them doing it in their late 50s. They won't be the Stones, and they're doing it in their 80s. I don't think anyone sees that happening, but fingers crossed it might. But I think that's part of the thing of why now is the perfect time for it to happen, because Noel's still capable of doing it. Noel's still capable of doing a big, massive world tour. But we know he bemoans getting tired and getting old. I don't think that the same thing applies to Liam, but I think we know he bemoans getting tired and getting old. Maybe it is one last hurrah, but maybe it's not. We just don't know, and it's very exciting. But the other thing as well, like I noticed this with the Simon Price article earlier on, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But like it feels like the old days. Do you know what I mean? It's like the haters are out as well. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about you people. Yeah, I forgot about you bastards. Like I mean, even in the case of having this conversation, I'm doing this on my phone. I've got like a music WhatsApp group with a couple of like muso people, and they're like, I've just seen the message flash up going, oh, I saw Oasis back in 2005. It was really boring, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, oh, yeah, these conversations are now up and running again. And it is like, 15 years have just disappeared and we're back. We're back where we were. And it's come with its pros and cons, isn't it? Because for all the joy, there's also the frustration of like, do you mind? That's my favourite fucking band. Do you mind?
Yeah, I don't slug off your favourite band. Do you know what I mean? It feels like people are allowed to slug off Oasis. Whereas like, even if someone's like Taylor Swift, right? I don't get it at all. I don't get it. I just don't think she's very good. I'm not a music snob. I like a lot of pop music. And I think like Beyonce's really good. I think Lady Gaga is really good. These are really great artists that work with the best producers and make amazing pop music, right? And not every song is to my tastes, right? But a lot of it is, and I really like it. Taylor Swift, I just don't get it. To me, it's so bland and average, and there's just nothing there. I do not understand it. I've never heard a Taylor Swift song that I thought was anything other than just really generic and boring. And yet, I wouldn't say that to someone that loves Taylor Swift. If someone loves Taylor Swift and they're like, oh, I'm off to the Eras tour, I'd be like, great. I hope you have a brilliant time. That's all I'd say. If they said, oh, do you like her? I'd go, not for me, mate. Which is the classic. That's all you say. No, not really. It's not really my thing. Or if they really push, then I'd say, yeah, I just don't think it's good. But it feels like Oasis, it's like open season when it's Oasis. You can slag them off as much as you want. I mean, I suppose there are some people like Robbie Williams I'll give a kick to and stuff. But even then, like I'll admit, it's fine. But yeah, it does feel like, and that Simon Price article, I mean, it's just to comment on that quickly. So Simon Price is this, I think we've talked about it here on the podcast because he did a podcast a few years ago where
it was the fast-paced songs thing, wasn't it?
Fast-paced songs, yeah. And he was saying, oh, Oasis don't even have any fast songs. They're all really slow and sludgy. And then cue the responses like, Head Shrinker, Fade Away, like all of these songs that are fast. It's like, what the hell are you on about? And he's like, and then he sort of, didn't, I don't think he really responded. And then, and now he's like piping up with some whingy article, like slagging off Oasis and saying that, it's their fault, that the rise of the EDL and like, everything is their fault. And it's like, no, and it's just, but for me, and Matt Morgan's, I don't know if you've seen Matt Morgan, like posted the picture of him on his Patreon and said like, oh, if Keith Flint and Boy George had a baby or something like that. And fair enough, that you can laugh at the way someone looks. And when you go out and make yourself look a specific way, you open yourself up to criticism for your look. But for me, I don't mind his look so much. But for me, he's just a bad writer. Like, he's not a good writer. Like, when you read his stuff, he like always uses quotation marks. That people might say it's quotation marks snobbery. And it's like, but in the same sentence, he'll use like 6 words in quotation marks, but it's not actually a quotation. He's just emphasizing like snobbery or, working class hero. That's not good writing. I mean, I'm not a writer. Like you're a writer. I just think it's crap. And I just think his points were like just really, really obvious, and it could have been generated by AI.
I think a lot of the arguments were kind of outdated as well. Like, I don't think Noel's especially proud of some of the things he said in the past, but it was 20 odd years ago. I mean, he only seems to like the Cure and the Manic Street Preachers, for all I can tell anyway. But it's the holier than thou attitude, I can't take. Well, I think for him and for that article, for the kind of the general haters attitude, what's been so great about these last couple of days is that, like, the joy it's brought so many people, and it's been wonderful to see how many people are excited about it. And not even just in the news, but through people we know, through social media, and obviously people on the Discord. And it's just been like everyone's so excited and happy about it. And speaking personally, I mean, on Sunday, when we saw Liam at Reading, it marked 1 year to the day it was 1 year to the day, which was, funnily enough, the day after I saw Noel at Taunton. My big brother, who got me into Oasis, really, had a fit and got air ambulance to hospital. The next couple of days, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. So obviously 1 year on, it's quite a significant week for my mum and my brother and my family and stuff. But seeing me on the TV and the radio talking about Oasis because I wrote a book about them has made my mum and my brother like really proud. And they're buzzing, and my mum's like texting me and asking me questions, and my brother's been emailing them, and they're just texting me, emailing me stuff, and how pleased they are and how proud they are. And it's hopefully a nice distraction in what is probably a difficult week. He's by no means out of the woods. He's undergoing chemotherapy. Things are still quite bad in that respect, but hopefully this is like a really nice distraction. And I know lots of people have similar stories that affect them in terms of like Oasis things and how much they meant to them. And for me, putting aside how exciting this reunion is, how much they mean to me, how much they always have and always will, no one can tell me this isn't important. No one can tell me that. But haters gonna hate.
It's gonna hate. Thank you for sharing that, mate. I think that's an incredible thing to hear, and I'm really pleased to say, it is special. I'm sure there's hundreds of people listening that have got kind of similar stories, and I know from people I've interviewed on the podcast that people have had, whether it's illness, whether it's bereavement or whatever, and Oasis have helped them. Oasis have got them through. And I mean, it's something I said on Twitter, I haven't said on here. It dawned on me, like, yeah, what about the people that didn't make it? Like our Susan Tadean, who was just an amazing force for good, and just so kind and lovely all the time, and had this cancer diagnosis and was just sort of amazing about it, and like stayed really positive all the way through, and was just such a lovely force. I say it's sad I never met her. I was supposed to meet her when she came over to England a couple of years ago, and we just couldn't make the timings work, which I'm now really gutted about. But yeah, and you think, oh, she wasn't there, she didn't get to see it. And I do think that is sad. Although someone, I'm really sorry, I can't remember who it was, said like, well, that's her from the other side, like her power of love has brought the brothers together from the other side. And you think that's a lovely thought, wherever you sit on your spirituality side, actually, that's an incredible thought. So I think it is worth sparing a thought for the people that won't be there to see them next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so raise a glass to them.
Absolutely.
But that's it, isn't it? This is such a big deal that we're thinking about that sort of thing. We don't think about that for, Noel's doing a new album.
Yeah.
It's great when Noel does a new album, but this is really like a cultural change. Like if the Beatles had got back together, or like if I was thinking the other day, what other band getting back together would be front page of the Sun worthy? Maybe the Spice Girls.
Yeah, Spice Girls in their original kind of format, or the original 5 and whatever. But I've said this point. Typically, I thought about it after one of the interviews I did, and I was like, "Fuck, that'd have been a great one." They're like ABBA and the Beatles and the Queen. Do you know what I mean? They're up in that kind of that bracket. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, I always think back to a quote Noel did, and I'm surprised it hasn't resurfaced. But he said, all I have to do, what he said about 3 years ago, I think it was a Chris Evans interview. He was like, all I have to do is make one phone call and the world will stand still. And that's what's happened. It really feels that's what's happened, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Since for the last, where are we now? 3 hours on, 72 hours. It feels like that's where we're at. And it's fucking brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it is brilliant. Yes, it is brilliant, isn't it? So James here, slightly in the future. Yeah, it was a really good chat with Richard earlier. There's another like 45 minutes or so where we really get into the specifics of the band, of who could be in the lineup and what songs could be played and that sort of thing. But I'm going to put a pin in this here, get this out as an episode, and then I'll get the part 2 out probably tomorrow. Because it's good to get, it's good to just keep on trucking with this thing. Just keep getting out episodes pretty much every day. So we're going to get this out now. But thank you very much for listening. Most of all, thanks go to our patrons. You put your money where your mouth is, and it's greatly appreciated. You can become a patron at patreon.com/OasisPod, which is where we post bonus material, and we also give access to the Discord, which is where we can do lots of good and fun things over there. Actually, loads of people have joined the Discord recently. We've had quite a few new patrons, which is really great. So thank you very much for everyone that's come on board as a patron. And if you are a patron, or if you want to become one and you're not on a Discord, let me know and I will ping a link over. Do follow on social media, Oasis Podcast on Twitter, Oasis Pod on Instagram. Do feel free to email me, oasispod@gmail.com. And until next time, which will be very shortly, stay in touch, stay engaged, and stay young. And Oasis are still together, apparently.